As we all know, hurricanes can cause serious damage to Louisiana, so it's important to be prepared. Today's guest, Mark Leslie, is here with some important tips on hurricane and weather safety, so stay tuned to learn what you need to know in case of a weather emergency on Fort Polk Podcast with Jeff England and Keith Ewan. Hey, and how's it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends on whether you're when are you listening to the podcast. I'm Jeff England, and I'm here with Keith Ewan. How's it going, Keith?
It's going
Oops, hang on. Let me turn on your mics.
going great today, Jeff.
It's going. It's a decent day. We got more people coming in for the podcast. I'm enjoying it, and this is the kind of stuff I love doing around here at Fort Polk.
Did you look at the weather today?
I did, and you know what we could use around here? Some more rain.
Absolutely. Oh. just a little bit more.
Now I know why we're known as the state with the most swamps. Yeah. It's crazy. And today's guest is Mark Leslie I know him from The Walk, but he's also the director of DPTMS. Mark Leslie, how you doing today?
Great, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on in. I appreciate all the support you give us over here at the Public Affairs Office. So we're here about it is weather season. It's weather season all year, but it's hurricane season. Hurricane goes from June 1st to November 1st?
Yeah, June 1st to November 30th.
Oh, November
is official hurricane season, and then we kind of really watch it until the end of January around here.
See, I've learned so much since I've lived in Louisiana for quite a while now, and things that people from not around here realize is that hurricanes can develop anywhere there's warm water, but for us, for the East Coast and the Southeast, it's a lot of them develop right off the west coast of Africa because of the Sahara's blowing all that hot air and over the water and that, and we have other ones that develop down in the Gulf by Belize and Mexico and stuff like that. Which ones tend to be more damaging?
Well, it's kind of hard to say. We watch all the disturbances, and so when a disturbance is formed, the weather squadron here on Fort Polk, we have a great relationship with. We confirm with them. We consult with the Lake Charles National Weather Service folks, and then we watch all of those. And we've got phase lines set up to kind of drive our actions depending on the strength of the storm. So, just because it's a Category 3 storm doesn't mean that it will be more devastating than a Category 1 storm. It's the speed of the storm and how long it hangs over your area that really determines the destructiveness of that storm.
I noticed that with one of the hurricanes that weren't very strong. I mean, it was like a 1 or a 3 or something, but it stalled out over Louisiana and just caused all kinds of flooding and damage. It's some crazy stuff. So, the last big storms that we had were
Laura and Delta.
Laura and Delta, and they came right over Leesville and Anacoco. It was the Hurricane Eyewall actually went over my house, and the people that aren't from here, my family that's not around here, I had to describe it to them as a 50-mile wide tornado going over our property. The winds were that bad, blew over my my homemade chicken coop, and but luckily my house didn't get any damage.
Did your chickens survive?
Luckily, I didn't have any chickens. I think they probably would have survived a hurricane a lot better than the dogs next door. They didn't stand a chance against them.
I think Laura was a big lesson learned for a lot of people. We really never had one come straight up the highway and
yeah, that was crazy. It was like it was taking the evacuation route.
Yeah, the normal preparations and stuff was one of those things where I don't think a lot of, and we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk about preparedness, but I don't think a lot of people were prepared for just how long you could be without electricity or water.
Oh yeah. And even if you have generators, the gas. I know people like I had to find gas. Well, luckily I had gas in the garage, but once it ran out, we had to find a gas station that had electricity and gas to pump, and then to top it all off, the people that had the home generators that ran on propane, the propane ran out around here also, and I mean it was crazy. So speaking of that kind of stuff, what kind of emergency supplies should somebody have on hand in case of a hurricane?
Well, first, Jeff, thanks for having me here today. It's a pleasure to talk to you about something I'm passionate about. I was protecting the populace of this installation. We're in the tail end of August, which is Anti-Terrorism Month, where we focus on man-made threats, and then we go right into September, which is the peak of hurricane season for us here in this area, and it's also Ready Army Month, where they talk about emergency preparedness. So we talked about the dates for hurricane season here in Fort Polk and the surrounding parishes. But right after we roll out of hurricane season, the peak hurricane season, September, we go into the peak tornado season, which is October through December, and then we go back into tornado season again in March through May. Unfortunately, tornadoes are a little harder to predict, and we get less warning than for a hurricane.
Yeah, I remember a hurricane or the tornado that came through DeRidder, Pineville, and went all the way out to Alexandria. That was like a 50-mile swath that just wreaked havoc.
Yeah, and our fire department actually responded to Rose Pine, where they had a fatality there,
yes,
and assisted with that. So,
oh wow,
yeah, they assisted the city of Rose Pine in that. So you're talking about supplies to have on hand. So there's a lot of websites out there that have great lists of supplies, but we really did a good inventory of, after our. In DeRidder, I think it was 16 days without any power.
Yeah.
And we had 5 days without power here on Fort Polk during Laura and Delta, or 3 days in Delta, I think. But, non-perishable food supply is one of the big items. Water for drinking. A lot of people don't think about their medicines. So during hurricane season, the peak hurricane season, especially September, have an extra supply of your medicines. Pet food, you got to think about your pets. Hard cash. A lot of people didn't think about having some hard cash on hand and small bills because ATMs aren't going to work if the power's out. You're unavailable to get cash. Batteries and flashlights, blankets, trash bags, hand sanitizer. You're saving on your water, and then a cell phone charging capability. There's some of the basic items. Like I said, go to the readytoarmy.mil website or one of the many others out there, and they'll tell you great things to have.
Yeah, cell phone charging capability is an interesting point. Because here on Fort Polk, and I know Rose Pine, DeRidder, in our local area, there was no phone lines. There was no, you couldn't turn on the television. If you wanted to listen to the radio, you had to go sit out in your car and crank it up and burn what precious gas you had left.
Yeah, the same with the phone chargers.
Yeah, so you had to charge your phone in your car. So, but that cell phone was a lifeline for most people's information. I mean, that's how you got to where emergency services were putting information out on where you guys were providing water, where the soldiers had ice trucks, where there was food, shower stations, and all that information.
Yeah, we had a period where we flip-flopped back and forth in Laura and Delta, where landline phones were down, then cell phones were down, and we went back. So we went back and forth between cell phones and landlines quite a few times during both those storms. So it's important to be able to charge your cell phone and have one of those mini chargers maybe that are available for you for emergency use,
or like the portable batteries.
Right.
So like that, we have those, nice strong batteries that we can charge our phones. But there's even more to think about when it comes to stuff like that, because I know a lot of people, including myself, that have CPAP machines and things that you actually need electricity to survive.
Right. Yeah.
And then you've got your refrigerator and all the food and the freezers. And of course, if you have an electric water heater, you're going to have to be taking cold showers after a while, at least.
Yeah, if you've got water.
Yeah, if you have water.
If you have water. And that's one other thing we'll talk about. How do you prepare your home? It kind of goes along with that. One of the first things, I took a few minutes before Laura and Delta to go home to my own house for a few minutes and remove anything out of the yard that could be a possible projectile.
Oh, yeah.
So all your lawn art, your flamingos you have out there, Jeff, and all the chairs and all that kind of stuff. You remove that out because that could damage your home or your vehicles. I had my son move his vehicle out from underneath the tree, which is a good thing because we lost that tree.
Yeah, good thought.
During September, always make sure I have 2 propane tanks. Always make sure I have them full because, like you said, we're going to run out and there's going to be a shortage for that. And I always keep my vehicle on. If I get to 3/4 of a tank, I go fill it up during the month of September because the first thing everybody does when we have a hurricane warning is they go fill up their gas. They buy all the bread, milk, and beer. I don't know why, but that's what they do. I know why they get the gas. I'm not sure on the bread and the milk. And then if you don't have a generator, I highly advise you to get one before the storm. Everybody knows they're in short supply and high demand during a storm, and the prices seem to always go up. You know, during Laura and Delta, we had our safety team going around looking at the everybody that had generators, and a few people had the generators inside their garage.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
In Laura and Delta, the state of Louisiana had more people die from carbon monoxide poisoning than from the storm itself. So, you know, if you got a portable generator, always make sure you're using it outside your home.
Yeah, and then I would also have to say maybe get a chain or cable or something to secure it, because like you said, they get in short supply right around hurricane season. And if a hurricane is expected out in the Gulf, or if they're saying, hey, one's heading this way, Lowe's ain't going to have the generators anymore.
Right, they're going to be out, and people are going to be looking for them. And if yours isn't secured, it may be the one they're getting.
Now, you know, we talk about Laura and Delta that hit us direct, but that being prepared is more than just Laura and Delta, because when they were evacuating from Lake Charles, 2 years prior to that, the one hit Houston and Harvey, right? We were short supplied gas all along 171 because all of the evacuation route, all the people evacuating from those areas are getting gas. And then we started providing, as a community, we were providing support to those people. So a lot of our hurricane supplies, at least in Rose Pine, ended up in East Texas and down in Lake Charles and in the community stuff. So it's not just about helping you, it's about helping the people around you that may run into the same problems.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, a hurricane doesn't have to directly strike Fort Polk or Leesville, Vernon Parish, Beauregard Parish area to affect what happens to us here. It could be like Harvey, it could be like Rita, it could be like Barry, it could be one of those. Anywhere it could have an impact on our ability to supply ourselves or sustain ourselves here at Fort Polk. You know, one of the things I learned when I first got to Louisiana is that when we have a loss of power or our water goes out quite often due to a variety of reasons. So what I started doing is I started saving every 2 liter, every gallon jug. We would sanitize those, and I fill them with water, and I put them out in the back in my back barn. I've probably got 100 of them now, but we've used those every time the water goes out to be able to flush, clean dishes, you know, and clean up with. So when the water was out during Laura, Delta, or even Harvey for a short time, we were able to use those. And so that's another good technique. If you have the storage ability to fill those things, sanitize them, you know, put them in your garage or your barn or out back, and just save them. And it's your own self, and you don't have to use your drinking water to do that.
Oh yeah,
hygiene becomes important.
The whole flushing the toilet is people forget about that. And it's
right.
like, oh man, I wish I had some water.
Yeah, you don't want to forget about that.
So, what could I do to, you know, prepare my home? I mean, like soldiers around here. Well, I'm a retired National Guard, and every time a hurricane would hit Louisiana, I would get activated and I would have to leave. So my home was like secondary to this. A lot of soldiers are going to have problems like this also. So it's really important to prepare your home, prepare your family. What can they do to prepare the home for a hurricane?
Yeah, well, like we just talked about, you know, don't park under trees is a big one. Pick up all those projectiles, anything that could be a projectile out in your yard. That's key. Even like Keith was talking about, it doesn't have to be a category 1 or 2 level, category 1 or 2 hurricane. It could be just severe winds. And so taking those items up would be important. You know, I've been about through 3 flagpoles at my house because I didn't pay attention to the winds and go out there and take them out and put a new one in, but I do now. So, you know, moving those projectiles. Luckily for us on Fort Polk, we've got good hydrology here, so we don't have a real flooding problem for our residential areas. Not so much in Vernon, Beauregard Parish. We're all aware of the areas that habitually flood, only for a short time, but there are some homes that get flooded. So you got to be prepared for those and pay attention if you live out in the community of your parish sandbag locations where you can go get those. And Vernon and Beauregard Parish both have 2 sandbag locations where they put sand and sandbags for the community.
I tell you, you got to get those quick. As soon as they open up for the sandbags, we have our sandbags. We have a large pile already stored that are sitting in a dry area, and they get moved every once in a while so that they don't bust and get dry rotted out. But every time I can fill sandbags, I get another 10 sandbags. And I've never flooded, but it's just that one time, or when somebody down the road says, "Man, I need some sandbags," and they were the ones that forgot to get out there and do it. They're sitting right there for whoever needs them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's I've seen, I've been seeing a lot of the videos, hurricane safety videos and stuff like that, where people board up their windows and stuff like that. So far, in my time here, almost 20 years, I haven't had to worry about our windows being boarded up. But if somebody did, would you recommend that they board them up or just tape them? Tape them up, like I've seen the tape on there too.
Yeah, I'm not sure the tape is going to hold. If you got that high winds, I'm not sure the tape is going to be it. Even the Gorilla tape they're selling, and I'm not sure the Alien tape. I don't think it's going to make it. I think you'd have to board those up, and I just wouldn't advise doing that on the installation.
Oh, okay.
Well, that tape only sticks to the things you don't want it to stick to anyway. So.
Well, usually. It's like we could get some Gorilla Glue and put it in our hair. Maybe that'll stop it. So, there are evacuations, and the last hurricane that we had, there was such a huge evacuation, especially out of Lake Charles and south of us, that they actually had to change the traffic signals through Leesville to all be able to flow nonstop. What should somebody do if an evacuation is necessary, especially if you're a soldier? Because I don't think soldiers, certain people are going to need to stay here, and others will be evacuated. So they'll be told whether they should evacuate or not. But what should they do if it is necessary?
Yeah. So one of the things is if you get issued an evacuation order by your parish or a recommended evacuation order, don't ignore it. They're telling you this for a reason, and you're putting your family and your own safety at risk. One of the major considerations that the local authorities use when they do an evacuation order is the ability of first responders to respond to another emergency. So it may not even be weather related, but you may have an injury at your home and first responders are busy tied up doing something else and they can't respond to that, to your family member that's injured. So don't ignore that evacuation plan. They're going to tell you where to go for a safe haven or a shelter. Fort Polk, we're going to have several safe havens designated for those that live or work on Fort Polk. If a safe haven is needed, the difference between a safe haven and a shelter is, the safe haven is we're going to ride out. It's not a full-blown shelter. We're not going to have food, water, medical care, all that stuff. It's a safe place to ride out the storm, and then you can return to your residence and assess the damage. In the parish, they'll have two, Vernon and Beauregard Parish will both have shelter locations that they'll announce at the time of the storm or before, prior to the storm, and at the opening hours and dates when it's going to be effective. And then they'll be able to service you. And one of the things I always do, and I have planned at my house, I have what I call our bug out bag. And that's you got your important documents in there. So, if you evacuate, you may not come back, or when you do come back, there may be nothing left. And so you want to leave with everything you need to reestablish yourself. So all those important documents with, your marriage certificate, birth certificate, social security cards, all those kind of things, those are important to take with you in paper copy and digital if you can, and have that in your bug out bag. And of course, anything you need to reestablish yourself, your passport, your ATM cards, all that stuff needs to be in there. And all the other items we talked about before to sustain yourself on the road as you leave. Let's see.
Sometimes I think it'd be easier to get people to evacuate if they would stop naming these hurricanes like Mary and Margaret and John and start naming them something fearful like Bubba. Like Hurricane Bubba's coming after you. It's like, oh, nuts, get out of here.
Well, they used to all be named after ladies, and they changed that a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then we started running out of names. We just had to go alphabet soup.
Oh, yeah. And then it started reminding me of grocery stores like Alpha Beta. And
yeah.
So let's see. What is the during a hurricane or during the hurricane itself, when you can't really go anywhere and, knowing usually my luck, the hurricane hits at night. So
yep.
You can't see anything. You can't do anything. So what should I do to stay safe during a hurricane?
Well, the Army has principles for everything. And so the Army has principles for the Ready Army month. And one of those, is be informed, make a plan, build a kit, and be involved. And so those are the principles of that. So if you follow that, you'll be ready for a hurricane. So, if you're in your home, course, listen to the local broadcasts that are put out as far as weather conditions and danger windows are going to tell you. But you usually move to an interior wall, to an interior room with no outside windows or doors. That's the safest place in your home during that time if you can't evacuate or you've elected not to or you didn't think it was necessary.
Then once the hurricane passes and you go outside, I do, being in the military for so many years, you go outside after an attack and you walk around and do a safety inspection to see if there's any UXOs and all that stuff. Do a FOD walk and see what's damaged and all that stuff. So what exactly are some of the dangers I should be looking for after the hurricane passes?
Yeah, that's a great question because a lot of times there's more injuries after the hurricane than actually during the hurricane. So there's a lot of dangers out there. The threat's not over, so there's going to be closed roads for a variety of reasons. Down trees, debris, they may be flooded, or down power lines. So those are very dangerous. So when you go outside and you check your home, be aware of debris. Check the structural integrity of your home, and if you feel it's not safe, you're going to have to leave. But when you do leave or you go out, pay attention to local authorities because you'll be aware of what roads are closed, especially for water. We have quite a problem around here. People going through standing water, and then they get stuck,
stalled out
in that water, and then they're stranded. It's another problem for the emergency responders. They have a whole lot of things to worry about.
Now they got you out on the road.
Now they got you out on the road. So.
Yeah, when Laura hit, and so just to get out of my neighborhood, there's two ways in. They both go to the same place. So one side our street looked like nothing happened. When you turn the corner, I had power lines I had to dodge, drive around, I had to go through a farm field to be able to get into the emergency operations center. And on the other side, every single tree was down, and you couldn't get through Rose Pine because the tree and trees along the side of the road, even after they cleared the stuff that was falling, you'd just be driving through and a branch would just fall down in front of you. And a lot of those branches were big enough if you would have been walking, it'd have been a lot worse than hitting your car.
Yeah, we call those widowmakers. In fact, on Fort Polk, after every major storm, we do an inspection to make sure that there's no widowmakers that could fall later and injure somebody else, because that has happened in the past. And it could kill you just as easily as the hurricane.
That's a good point.
After one of those dangers that people don't think about is contaminated food after a storm. So it may be a while before the garbage service is running again. So it goes back to being prepared with garbage bags. But after a storm, if you've lost power, eat your refrigerated and your freezer food first. Save your non-perishables. Maybe you'll get power back but that food will spoil. You don't want to eat spoiled food.
Yeah, don't try eating a bloated can.
Yeah, would not be good.
Yeah, the dangers after things, that reminds me of that ice storm we had where everything was just frozen over and everybody and everything was telling you do not go out on the roads, but you go out on the roads after the ice storm or the ice is melted and stuff, and all you see are cars off in the ditches all the way up and down highway. It's like, what were you thinking?
They wanted to see the once in a century ice storm, I guess.
At least get some chains on your tires or something.
Mark, can you tell people a little bit about it? Because I'm not sure people realize how much effort we go through to make sure this community's safe. I mean, we have our monthly meetings and all of that, but that's a big process.
Yeah, I can tell you this. Fort Polk has a great team, and they've got a lot of experience preparing for hurricanes. So we prepare for a hurricane every year. For hurricane season, we call it severe weather season. It's really an all hazards plan. But we prepare for that every year, just like a unit deploying to overseas, to Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever it may be. And we present this plan to the commander, and every staff section, every directorate gets us some brief on how we've prepared this installation to make sure every single person on this installation that lives, works, and plays on Fort Polk is safe, and those that live off the installation and that work here are safe as well. I mean, so we go through generator repairs, we cover shelter plans, safe haven plans, evacuation plans, talk about how we're going to prioritize everything after the storm. It's a pretty good, pretty robust plan, and we make it better every year.
So we're pretty set up. I mean, we're much faster on recovery than the majority of the community surrounding Fort Polk.
Oh yeah, but really, to be honest with you, that our ability to recover is because of the great relations we have with our parish partners. I mean, we've got great relations not only with local governments, but with local power companies, water companies. I mean, we talk to them. The garrison commander and senior commander talk to them quite often, and then we have dialogue with them throughout the year, and then we participate in their plans to help their community recover, and then they attend ours. So we share information and collaborate to make sure Fort Polk can't do this by itself. Leesville and DeRidder, Rose Pine, Nulano, none of them could do it by themselves, and we all work together to make sure the whole community is safe.
I'll just say I grew up in Louisiana, and I went through many hurricanes as a kid. And I will say, never do I remember the preparedness. And I was in Mississippi for Katrina, but this area is probably the most prepared area I've ever lived in. That's susceptible,
Especially Fort Polk. I mean, I come to Fort Polk for or after the hurricane, because this is where everything's going to be working first, because we're so well prepared on post. So that's why I get my gas here. Or I can get some ice and some water and stuff like that. It's very helpful.
Yeah, it's a team effort. It really is, and the units really pitched in. I mean, they're all in because it's their families, and so during Laura and Delta, we had cooling stations, we had ice distribution, we had water distribution. We were working on rationing propane. We were rationing gas, so nobody was hoarding. I mean, so we got a great plan and a great team that executes it. And like I said, it's a testament to Fort Polk how well they work together, as well as with our parish partners.
So, just let's say storm's on the way.
Yeah,
Where am I getting my information?
Yeah, how? I mean, I've seen the spaghetti models, and it's like, why do they call them spaghetti? And then I saw it. It's like, oh, never mind.
Well, on the tail end of that spaghetti model, and this is something I learned a few years ago, and I thought it was pretty telling. They've got that cone, and that cone is called the cone of uncertainty, because the weather is much like the enemy. You never know where it's going to go or what it's going to do. So anywhere in that cone, you could have varying degrees of severity for the impacts. But where you're going to get your information from on Fort Polk itself, we're going to put it out through all various forms of social media. It'll be and from the Warrior Operation, it'll be disseminated to the chain of command. So you'll get, expected strike hours. You'll get safe haven locations. You'll get restriction of movement orders. If we put a curfew in place, that'll be put out through there. So monitor those, and then local weather conditions. Through KLB or KPLC or local radio stations, you'll be able to get information from them as well. And we also have storm towers on Fort Polk that will sound an alarm. Usually we use those for tornadoes, not hurricanes. But those are meant for people outside, for them to seek shelter. You may not be able to hear it inside your home. That's why it's important. There's a little personal responsibility involved in there during severe weather to be monitoring weather stations.
But if you hear that siren, you should be looking for some shelter somewhere.
If you hear that siren, that's right. You should do something before you while you're outside.
Now, you did mention pet food in your preparation. We kind of jump back to that preparation piece. Don't forget your pets in any stage of your preparation, because there's not a lot of places that you're going to be able to shelter your pets or bring your pets. That's pretty much going to be on you. And if you have to evacuate, you need to have a plan for what you're going to do with those pets on your evacuation.
Yes. So the local parishes have pet shelter or pet safe havens / shelters set up, and they'll announce those and the locations of those where they're going to be, both Beauregard and Vernon Parish. And on Fort Polk, if necessary, we will establish a pet shelter. They'll be manned by soldiers, oversaw by our vet. And it's for those that work on Fort Polk or seeking safe haven on Fort Polk. They'll be allowed to drop their pet off there while they're in the safe haven itself. And then when they leave the safe haven, they pick their pet up. It's not to drop your pet off and then evacuate north. That's not how it works. It's only while it's to keep those your fellow patrons in the safe haven safe, because not all pets get along. Sometimes they get along better than people, but not all pets get along with each other.
So, what resources? Are there any other resources for for somebody that hasn't done this or hasn't gone through this that might feel a little? I can guarantee they're going to feel a little anxious if we're battening down the hatches for a hurricane. What other resources that may not be well known that are available for preparing for the incoming hurricane?
Yeah, good question, Jeff. So first of all, I would say, hey, don't be anxious or nervous. Like we talked about earlier, Fort Polk is probably the most prepared installation and the most experienced installation when it comes to severe weather season of any place I've ever been in 38 years of doing this. But there's a great website called ready.army.mil that tells you everything you need to know about preparing for any kind of severe weather event. They'll have checklists in there. They'll have everything. Then there's also the Louisiana State Governor's Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparation has a great website specifically tailored to Louisiana, but you can go to those both as well. And during Ready Army Month, during both issues of The Guardian, you'll see articles from our emergency manager, Mr. Tommy Morris, that'll be published that tells you how to be safe and what to do in prep for hurricane season.
And I also advise, listen to the local radio station. So every Monday on 2 local radio stations, somebody from Fort Polk is on there talking about important things on Fort Polk. And I believe it's September 12th. Tommy's going to be talking hurricane preparedness or severe weather preparedness on our local radio stations. If you don't know where they are, if you don't know where local radio stations are, you can go to our website and check out which stations to be listening to. So, any more questions for him?
Oh,
Jeff?
absolutely. I'm all full of questions. Like,
well,
Okay,
Mark's an important man.
Well,
right?
of course,
He's a very busy and important
I like to see
man.
how long I could keep him away from work.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I gotta go, man. But the hurricane, I got all prepared and we weathered the storm. The storm has passed. What kind of resources are around for me to help recover from afterward? Anything?
Let me see.
Oh, I think I stumped him. All right.
No,
I doubt
after
that.
the hurricane.
After the hurricane. It's like to recover from a hurricane.
Okay, so there are lots of resources out there. We talked about the ready.army.mil. We talked about your local emergency manager. And so if you live out in the parish, if there's significant damage done, there will be sites set up by GOSEP. So you have an OSEP manager per parish. They'll set up sites to distribute food and water. And then on Fort Polk, if there's significant damage with a power loss or water loss, then we'll have sites set up on Fort Polk for the residents of Fort Polk come and be distributed supplies. And during Hurricane, I think it was Laura, we had the Red Cross. We've also got a great partnership with our Red Cross, and they brought individual recovery materials boxes for the residents of Fort Polk to pick up.
I think we gave supplies out to about 500 cars that day.
Yeah, it was a pretty good.
It was short. It was a little slow to start off, but then all of a sudden it was 4:30 in the afternoon, and we were running out of supplies. The only thing, I will make a warning about the food they're going to hand out. It's going to be MREs, folks. So,
oh boy! Now, I remember passing out all kinds of food, water, and blue tarps.
Yes.
We would give out blue tarps with the National Guard. We'd have our own little setups and distribution points, and it was MREs, civilian style MREs, which I found out are a thing, and of course cases of water and stuff like that. There are distribution points out there.
One thing you will find in this community, Jeff and Mark, is that you probably, you'll see it in other places, but it was amazing to me the last 2 hurricanes we had. There were people from Oklahoma that drove down here and set up cooking stations on the side of the road to feed work crews, feed the people that didn't have any way of cooking at their houses. You had churches and schools and Lions Club, VFW. So you're not alone in this situation. This community really comes together after that storm hits.
Oh, absolutely.
Really comes together. It pulls together and does everything they can support those that can't support themselves.
Now, the worst time that you can be feeling alone is if you get like stranded. You're trying to get out of here or you're trying to evacuate and you get stranded. What do you do in a case like that? You're stranded.
Yeah, well, I guess the answer depends on where you're stranded at. In your unique individual situation. Are you on the road? Are you at home? Are you at a friend's house? So I always think of 3 things that would drive my decision on that. Am I or my family in some immediate danger? Is it going to put me in greater danger to move, or can I stay right where I'm at? Sometimes being stranded is okay.
Sometimes doing nothing is the best thing
That's
to do.
right. A little tactical patience like we teach here at the Joint Readiness Training Center, right? And what is our ability? Will moving put us at greater risk? How long do I think this will last? We know that we get some severe thunder showers here.
Oh, yeah.
And roads get flooded, and you might be on a dry spot on that road, but you can't go forward or backwards. Sometimes maybe just wait, or is it gonna last? Or you by a creek, and is it gonna be longer? And so I would advise you to begin to go back to principles of the Ready Army campaign. Be informed, make a plan, build a kit, and get involved. If you got a kit in your car, you've got a kit in your home, you're informed and you're listening, and you know what roads are closed, you know where not to go. That'll help you drive that decision.
That was make a plan, be informed,
build a kit, and then get involved. That's what Keith was talking about, the get involved part.
Gotcha.
And if you see a sign that says high water, they probably actually mean it. Just saying.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty that have passed up the high water sign and just a little bit too late by the time they turn to back
high
up.
water. They said it was high water, but they didn't say how high.
That's right.
Right. If you see water on the road, just turn around. Don't drown. So now, if I did need more information about hurricane safety, weather safety, anything around here, who can I contact or where can I go to get more information?
Yeah, there's our emergency manager, Mr. Tommy Morris. He's been doing this a long time, and he's very familiar with everything that you need to know about emergency management and making yourself safe during severe weather season. So his number is 337-531-4875. And you can call Tommy, and he'll direct you to the right resources, or he may even have some resources to help you out. Also, like I talked about before, the readytoarmy.mil, go there and check it out. And then also there's another great website the state of Louisiana has. It's called GOHSEP, GOHSEP.LA.gov, that will tell you by parish everything you need to know about your parish emergency manager and where to get in touch with them.
So it's like GOHSEP.
GOHSEP, Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparation.
Yeah, don't think it's like that Louisiana spelling.
No.
Yeah, GOHSEP does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
they're on top of it. They're used to it. They've dealt with a lot of things in the past decade or two. So.
I mean, Red Cross gets involved also, and so there's all kinds of resources out there. You just got to pay attention.
Yep.
And call
Tommy.
Call Tommy.
Call Tommy.
Yep.
His home phone number, by the way. No, just kidding, Tommy.
There's also a couple of other things that I think I always pitch these ideas or these things to the new soldiers or the family welcome. We got the Digital Garrison app. And so that's one of the things we always pitch to families during hurricane season or severe weather event or any kind of event really on Fort Polk. We're going to push information to the community through that Digital Garrison app. So if you haven't got that, I highly advise everybody to download it, select Fort Polk as your home, and then you'll know everything the community is supposed to know if you use that. The second is alerts for all the active duty service members here. When you log onto your computer, go to the little blue globe on the bottom of it, put in your information, and you're fully registered. You can put in your wife's cell phone, your kid's cell phone, whatever you want to put in, and then they'll get alerts that's pushed out by the Warrior Operations Center that's real-time information on what's happening on Fort Polk. The third is Nixle. So all you got to do is Google the word Nixle. And no matter what parish you live in, you put in your zip code, and they'll send you alerts. I really think this is a great tool, and I always pitch it to the families. When I first started this job, I had all of our 6 surrounding parishes on there. My phone was exploding all the time because they do such a great job disseminating information. But if a road's closed, if you have a boil advisory, if there's an escaped inmate, if there's a severe weather event, high winds, they're going to push that on that phone and on that app, and you'll get the information. It's a great tool. And like I said, it's tailored to your specific zip code. And then lastly, when traveling during severe weather season, actually any season in the state of Louisiana, I think, or in the Gulf Coast, the LADOTD website is pretty phenomenal. We actually use that in the Warrior Operations Center when we're moving troops during severe weather from the port to here or up to Alexandria. So it's got real-time cameras. You can see the road conditions. They tell you what roads are closed, what routes are open, routes are heavily congested, where there's accidents. So if you're traveling on evacuation, you may want to check that LADOTD website out before you go. And then even if you're going on vacation, a lot of times, I think it's 10 that heads over to Texas. Yeah. 10 will get flooded. and I've been stuck because I didn't check the website.
Yep.
Going a long detour, not in my truck, in my wife's car, and it was a lot longer than I expected it to be.
I had that problem coming back from Florida when Baton Rouge got flooded.
Yeah.
It was the LA 10 was, or Interstate 10, I-10 was just absolutely shut down. And I had to try to find a way around. It's like, oh, no.
Now, it's a great website, and like I said, it has real-time cameras on there, so you can see the weather conditions yourself, and we use them kind of monitor that with when we're moving troops.
Nice.
Well, and there is one thing, and I've noticed here, I think we're extremely fortunate with our own weather squadron on post. I go to their website all the time just to look at my local weather because that's mission critical weather. So if we're not able to train, you're probably shouldn't be out there running around.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We have a great weather squadron here, Air Force support. I hate to say it, but yeah, they're great, Jeff.
Well,
Yeah, you know it.
No, they do great. They're good supporters of ours. They attend all of our planning sessions, and they help us make sure that Fort Polk is safe.
And you can get to their website through Army home.army.mil/Polk. They are right. I think there's a link right on the front page.
Link right on the front page, and it's they have all the weather that you need to go to. It's primarily focused on mission, the key links, but all the other weather details that you need on a daily basis are right there, and it's very specific to Fort Polk and the surrounding area, not just a general Vernon Parish, Beauregard Parish, state of Louisiana. So they get down pretty in the details, and if you know how to read weather charts, it's even better for your fishing and hunting season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there? I think we covered a lot in the last 40 minutes or so. It's like,
Yeah, no,
That's a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to engage the community. I'm a privilege to serve the best customer in the world, the U.S. Army and their families. So thanks for having me. And
well, thank you for coming in, and I expect to have you come back for maybe some tornado season or the rainy season. No, no, we've got all kinds of. Louisiana is just full of weather extremes, hurricanes and tornadoes and heat and ice storms and. It's like in flooding and.
But Mark, we all appreciate your team down there too, and I can't say enough about the guys in the Warrior Operations Center, Emergency Operations Center, and how they get on top of.
Yeah, they are great.
And our DES here is just, incredibly responsive, and I don't think people realize how much. Even our aviation unit, I don't think how much they realize that we're part of not just JRTC and Fort Polk, but this entire community, and this entire community is part of JRTC and Fort Polk when it comes to emergencies and just taking care of each other. But your team is integral to making sure that connection stays that way, and we truly appreciate it from the public affairs side of the house.
Well, I appreciate it, and I know the team does. Just, there's not one entity that makes the machine run, so everybody's a component of that. So, PAO tells the community what's going on and where to go and what to do. DES makes sure they're safe. The airfield makes sure all of our air traffic is routed properly. The Warrior Operations Center makes all the plans along with the mission staff. So it's not one entity that makes it survive. It's the partnership and the collaboration of the whole Fort Polk team, as well as our parish partners that make our community safe.
And speaking of making our community safe, I have a meeting in about.
All
30
right.
minutes
Well,
for some training.
we'll call this a day. And thanks a lot, Mark Leslie, the director of DPTMS, and I'm Jeff England, and that over there is
Keith Ewing.
Thanks for listening to the Fort Polk Podcast. I'll tune you in again later.